Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Caitlin Heath, and I'm the Associate Director of Communications and Events at the French American Chamber of Commerce, New York chapter. We are happy to welcome you today to today's session, How to Present Powerfully Across Cultures. Before I introduce our guest speakers, just a quick word about our organization for any new participants. The French American Chamber of Commerce's mission is to provide the networks and opportunities, experiences, and understanding that empower successful business relationships between and for members. Through international training programs for young professionals, trade services, and networking opportunities, we foster the development of individuals and companies. The FACC New York chapter is part of a larger national network of 18 regional chapters and counts a mosaic of 800 members representing sectors such as tech, luxury, food, finance, and other professional services. Members have complimentary access to webinars featuring top industry experts and leaders, as well as personalized member-to-member introductions, and of course, access to the FACC member directory in our newly revamped member portal. A quick word about today's format. This is a workshop event. We really want you to take away actionable and memorable tips to help you develop your career. As you can see, you have the possibility to be on video. We encourage you to use that if you're comfortable doing so. And then there will be moments throughout where you are asked to participate, so please don't be shy. And if you're asked to give comments, please remember to unmute your mic and participate. So without further delay, I'm pleased to welcome our guest. To begin, we have with us Dan Bullock, who's a language and communications specialist and trainer at the United Nations Secretariat, who's training diplomats and global UN staff. He also serves as faculty teaching business communication, linguistics, and public relations within the division programs in business at New York University School of Professional Studies. Welcome, Dan.
I got it.
And then secondly, we have Raul Sanchez, who is an award-winning clinical assistant professor at the corporate program coordinator at the New York University School of Professional Studies. He has designed and delivered corporate trainings for Deloitte and the United Nations, as well as been a writing consultant for Barnes & Noble Press and PBS. And last but not least, we have illustrator Rod Sánchez, who is an award-winning visual communication designer, artist, and filmmaker. He is a lead user experience user interface designer at Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, and has designed and illustrated book covers for Penguin, Random House, and Scholastic. Rod has directed and designed campaigns for Disney, Nickelodeon, and CUNY, just to name a few. So welcome to our speakers, and I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. We really appreciate it. I want to give you a special thank you for making this event possible. And of course, the French American Chamber of Commerce, New York for organizing this event, and all the partners, American Chamber of France, Philadelphia, the Rocky Mountain chapter, Chicago, and San Diego. We're very excited to be here today to share this presentation with you. This is from our recently published book. And so the three of us, and the book is called How to Communicate Effectively with Anyone, Anywhere, and by Career Press. And I just want to, before we begin, point your attention here to the globe that we have on the screen here in the PowerPoint slide. And the reason we're starting with this image is that the most powerful cognitive shift can happen when an astronaut turns in space flight to view the Earth. And this is called the overview effect. And this shift in awareness can be so powerful that it's said that it could be the key to sustainability and world peace. So we wanted to start with this image because our book is centered around patterns of communication. And the idea is that the goal is to develop a global mindset that connects to a global skill set. And so each chapter in the book pertains to a different skill: presentation skills, effective emailing, negotiation skills, strategic writing in the global marketplace. And today what we're going to share with you is presentation skills, because as we know, in our globalized era, presentation skills are more important than ever. We're communicating with global partners and multicultural teams all around the world. And so this is a skill that across industries is very practical and important. And as Caitlin said, I am a clinical assistant professor at New York University. I also coordinate our corporate education program, which handles trainings between multinational corporations and NYU, New York University. I also contribute to the Huffington Post, Harvard Business Review, and Wall Street Journal. And I want to give a warm shout out to our parents who are here today and our publisher as well, Michael Pye. And I'm going to hand it over to these gentlemen, who it's always a pleasure to present with. Professor Bullock.
Sure. So hi, everybody. Bienvenue. I hope everyone's doing well, whether you are here in the States or whether you are across the pond in Europe. So my name is Dan Bullock, and like Katie had mentioned, just to give some additional information. So I'm a language and communication specialist at the United Nations Secretariat based here in New York, where we work with a number of duty stations across the world, specifically in terms of developing departmental trainings, customized trainings, specifically to higher order communication skills. Okay, and presentations, public speaking is one of those skills, along with negotiation and a few other aspects that we do talk about in the book. And I train a number of diplomats, delegates, and global UN staff. I also teach at the School of the New York Times as well during summer. A lot of the time, believe it or not, the New York Times does have a summer program for aspiring journalists. But again, writing, public speaking, all of these skills that you're just expected to learn along the way can really help define your success. And that's why we wanted to give this book and give these types of workshops out to the public in order to help enhance your skill sets, right? So that you can go out and do great things and achieve great things as well. So like Professor Sanchez said, so we write for the Harvard Business Review, we write for FACC-NY business publication, as well as a few other ones, and we're happy to be here. So I'm going to turn it over to Rod Sánchez, who is the illustrator of the book. Rod?
Thank you, Professor Bullock. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I want to extend a very warm special thank you to Caitlin Heath and the French-American Chamber of Commerce for having us. It's a deep pleasure. And we are very thankful that you're here to join us today for this very special workshop and book talk event, and also in celebration of our new book, How to Communicate Effectively with Anyone, Anywhere. As Raul and Professor Raul Sanchez and Dan mentioned, we are very excited. My name is Rod Sanchez. I'm the illustrator of the book. I'm honored to collaborate with these two gracious gentlemen on this work, Professor Sanchez and Professor Bullock. And in addition to illustrating the book, I was also given the wonderful honor by the publisher, Career Press, specifically Michael Pye, to design and illustrate the cover of the book. So very appreciative for that. Just a little bit background information in addition to what Caitlin mentioned. I'm a lead user experience designer at Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, which is a global trade and educational publisher. And my experience extends in providing design direction and creating visual communication design solutions across multiple digital and print platforms. So we're very grateful to share this book with you on this mission to spread a meaningful message of collaboration and intercultural connections and unity for humanity through global communication. So very special shout out to our families who are here today. And so thank you for being here with us. We have a lot of exciting things planned, so we invite you to enjoy. Professor Sanchez, Professor Bullock, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Sure, and Professor Bullock, do you want to kick us off? So as Caitlin mentioned, please type in the chat. Please be as participatory as possible. We have some giveaways. We have a lot of special things planned. We want you to chime in either in the chat or, if you feel comfortable speaking out. We have a lot of activities throughout. So, and then Professor Bullock, do you want to take it away?
Sure. So let's get started. So a topical agenda, we have to know where we're going on this journey, right? So part one, we're going to talk about culturally powerful presentations in terms of our theme. What are the characteristics of an effective presentation? So we have to break it down to the smaller components in order to come out with this amazing presentation of some sort, right? We also are going to talk about storytelling. Now, this is no big kept secret, right? A lot of people know that storytelling is very effective today. But we're going to talk about the science of neural impact. So we're going to give you a little bit of science behind it because communications is a psychological process and presentations are no different. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about Maslow's motivational theory as it relates to presentations, right? In terms of audience considerations, because we're going to tell you something. It's all about the audience. It's all about the audience. And then we're going to go into opening the presentation with ways to effectively get someone's attention immediately through what's called effective hooks. And then Professor Sanchez?
Sure. And then from there, we're going to widen it to the global context, talk about something called schemata, which deals with cognitive psychology. If you know what that is, don't worry, you will know very soon. And it's a very powerful strategy. In progress. Then we're going to talk about communication patterns and how to develop a global presentation style, international presentation style, so that wherever you present around the world, whatever global teams you're presenting to, you have a style that's going to reach a spectrum of audiences. Then we're going to go into some linguistic considerations, some linguistic strategies for how to become a global communicator, some ways you can do that through the language and the words that you use. And at the end, we have a very special treat for you. We're going to end with one vision and something that my twin brother, the illustrator and visual communication designer, is going to share with you. So again, get ready, dive in. We want this to be as participatory and interactive as possible. And is everybody ready? Give us a sign in the chat. Let us know. Let us know you're out there. Maybe type in where you're from. Let's go. Rachel, perfect. Manon, ready. Okay. Mariela, yes, perfect. Okay. Paris. Oh,
Paris.
fantastic.
Very
Great.
good.
We're in New York, as you can tell. We have the Empire State of Mind going on behind us. Okay. Yes. Sabi. Very good. Nice to meet all of you. John Edwards. Oh, from New Jersey. Perfect. So you're really close. Elizabeth. Oh, it's good to see you. Sabah. Arizona, New York. Brigitte. Wow. Great. Florida.
Wow.
So we have a range of locations today. New Jersey, NYC. So you're in our turf. Very good. Excellent. So good to see you. So let's get started. And we look forward to hearing from you throughout. So every presentation, every speaking situation is an opportunity for change. In fact, an opportunity to change the world. And we want to start with this idea of change. You know, whether you're presenting in a boardroom or in a larger conference center, the goal of every presentation is to create a connection between the presenter and the audience that ignites some kind of change. We want to start here with a quote by President Barack Obama. And he says, change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. And we wanted to start with this idea of change for a reason. When we are presenting, we have to reframe the presentation context when we're thinking about intercultural presentations. We want to think about a catalyst. And so if I may ask you, what does that word mean? What is a catalyst exactly? If you can tell me what that means. So I'm taking you back to perhaps your chemistry days. What is a catalyst? What does a catalyst do?
Starts a process in motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. So it starts a process in motion, perhaps a chemical reaction, right? And what exactly does it do to the chemical reaction?
Well,
so it starts it, but it also
speeds up the process.
Yes, exactly, John. Very good. So a catalyst speeds up a chemical reaction. Okay. So as a global presenter, right, we're not thinking of ourselves as the source of change, but we are the facilitator of change. The audience is the hero of the presentation. And we are sort of Mr. Miyagi, the fairy godmother, Yoda, right? The audience is the hero. We are the guy on the side with the water as they are running a marathon. And the reason for this shift in mindset is that once we have this mindset in place, the audience becomes the center of the presentation and not us. And then in that space, we're able to develop the adaptability that we need for cultural communication to occur. We're able to create a space for empathy, respect, understanding, and everything we do is geared towards the audience becoming their best selves. It's not necessarily about us becoming our best selves. It's about the audience having the tools to become what they want to be. So this is a shift in mindset that is very important. And as a catalyst, there's always these three areas: a catalyst for thought, emotion, and action. So we want the audience to leave the presentation thinking differently than they entered, feeling something differently, or doing something differently after the presentation. So we want to start with this framework because it's a very important mental shift. And then this is how you're able to cultivate the adaptability for effective and impactful intercultural communication to occur. And very good question about how you know if you're losing your audiences. So you want to build feedback loops throughout the presentation. That's one reason why you want to make it interactive, is you want to make it engaging, but also the interactivity allows you to see, is the audience following me? Do I need to rephrase something? Do I need to deliver the information in a different way? So that also gives you valuable information. So that's very good. So, and now we want to open with a question here. So we want you to think back to a presentation that you saw recently that was very impactful, that was resonant to you. And we want you to tell us what the characteristics of an effective presentation are, just based on that presentation that you saw. What made it so effective? And we have, as you can see, these two blue blocks. We have some already here, but we want to see what you come up with and if it matches what we have. So John Edwards, great story. Yeah, storytelling is very important. Simple. Yeah, clarity, Hong, is very important. What else? What other things? Dynamic speakers. Yes, engagement, passion, succinct, animated, few slides. Yes, no one likes 40 slides. Icebreaker, the tone. Yeah, connection, clear words, catching phrases. Okay, very good. Any other ones? Enthusiasm. Yes, you have to have enthusiasm. You cannot be presenting in a monotone. Humor. Fantastic. Asking questions, Elizabeth. Very good. Smiling. Yes, crucial. Okay, very good. So we're going to reveal some here that we have, which some of you have mentioned, and then we're going to tell you why we broke it down this way. So we have information research, very important. Okay, the purpose of the presentation is also important. Visual aids, which some of you mentioned, the type, design, clarity, relevance, also the structure of the presentation, thinking about where do we begin, where is the middle, the supporting information, and how do I end. And the message is key. Again, it's those three areas: call to action, feeling, or thought. If you're able to combine two of them, the presentation is even more powerful. And if you can combine all three, your presentation is guaranteed to reach your audience. And on the other side, we have nonverbals. So this is very important. Even though we're in the virtual age, this is the key strategy here. Just one point is that you shift your body when you shift topics, right? Particularly when you're presenting to an international audience. So for example, if I were to say, today I'm going to talk about topic A, and we're going to go over these three things. And then I'm going to talk about topic B, and we're going to talk about these three things. Now, in terms of A, okay, now if I said the same thing and I said, today we're going to talk about topic A and go over these three things, and then topic B and go over these three things, you can see how challenging it is for an audience to follow what I'm saying. So one key strategy is to shift your body when you're shifting in topic, okay? And then of course, with nonverbals, we have voice quality, stress being volume, intonation, rise and fall, and rhythm. You know, you increase the rhythm, the pace of your voice when you want to increase excitement, and you slow down the rhythm and the pace of your voice when you want to make an important point, right? Also, you know, we have passion, which you mentioned, attitude, enthusiasm. If you're passionate about your topic, the audience is going to be riding that wave with you, right? Transition signals are equally important. Sequencing, giving signs, almost like the audience is on a road with you. You want to give them signs, you want to give them a roadmap, and transition signals are very important. The use of the physical or the virtual space. In the virtual space, we have them here up, but you can see I am actively using this space as much as I can, because again, it's very important to help the audience follow the information and mark sections with your body movements. And interactivity of the audience is another thing. And of course, technical level. Is the audience a generalist audience? So do you use general vocabulary? Are they specialized audience in your field? Then you have to think about the vocabulary there as well, okay? So why do we break this up into these two columns? Because every presentation is a combination of two things. There are two pillars to the presentation. One is content, and the other is delivery, okay? Now, we often spend a lot of time on the content part. We think about the PowerPoint, perfect it. We want to make sure our slides are dynamic and polished, and we think we're finished in terms of preparation. But in fact, we have to spend just as much time preparing the delivery, particularly for an intercultural audience. Both content and delivery are important pillars of any presentation, and if one falls, the other one falls with it. So we want to make sure we spend as much time preparing, not just what we're saying, but also the delivery of that information. And on the lower left, we just want to give you one quick statistic here that research in cognitive psychology suggests that memory is affected by how deeply we process the information. So in other words, emotions embed memories more strongly. And we have to think about this when we're not just preparing the content, but also the delivery of the presentation. And Professor Bullock?
Sure. And in other words, what we could say is what we say is as important as how we say it. So the what being the content, right? Where we tend to spend a lot of the time, that's where most people tend to have this comfort level. We're going to make the perfect PowerPoint. And then we leave maybe an hour just to, you know, figure out our talking points delivery. I come from a public relations background, so talking points are very important, right? It's the same thing in presentations. So the how is just as important as the what.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And so now we're going to go into something called neural coupling. Okay, this is a phenomenon that was recently researched. And neuroscientist Dr. Yuri Hassan, this is research that his team of researchers did at Princeton University. And they were researching the neurological basis of human communication and storytelling. And what they found was quite remarkable. They found that when we're delivering a powerful story, we share nearly identical brainwave activity with our audience. And so this is quite powerful. It's something that we've intuitively known for some time, looking throughout history, but that now it's affirmed through the research that storytelling is one of the most powerful transcultural vehicles that we can use for communication. And what they found essentially, they hooked up audience members and storytellers to MRI machines, and they found that our brain waves essentially get in sync through the act of storytelling. And so this is called neural coupling. And this is quite powerful and also substantiates that storytelling is a very powerful tool that you can use in presentations. Storytelling synchronizes the listener and the speaker's brain, right? As we mentioned here, it also connects listeners to the storyteller emotionally. And so this is very important. Another thing is that it lights up more of the brain than factual reporting. So instead of delivering a list of facts, see if you can tell a story, you're going to have more cognitive activity and engagement from the audience. The other thing is that it enhances memory, right? So storytelling enhances memory. For example, think of Isaac Newton and the apple. We remember facts easier when they're told in a storytelling format rather than simply a list of information, okay? So how do we create this mind-to-mind connection? How can you do this in a presentation? So here are some techniques, and these are from the book. You can bond with the audience over professional, social, or personal cause. So we all listen to stories with our hearts more than our minds because we're looking for messages that align with our values. So think of a value in your presentation, such as honesty or integrity or empathy, and see if you can build a story around that value. And in that way, you can expand your stories from personal to human experience. The next is that you can illustrate a skill, method, or process important for progress. So again, instead of listing just a bulleted, itemized set of facts or steps, see if you can tell a story around it. This is going to make the information more engaging. And the next, highlighting a shared challenge or common goal. Another technique is to think of powerful decision-making moments in your life. And then how can you inspire the audience to make those same decisions in their lives, right? Again, you're trying to empower the audience to become their best selves, okay? So thinking of key decisions that you made, and then how can you inspire those decision-making moments in the audience members' lives? The next is making a presentation bigger in meaning than its data. So I want to point out Professor Bullock. He sends very interesting articles to read that are stimulating to me. And one in particular was titled, "Data Without the Human Soul is Meaningless." And I thought this was quite powerful because without us, data has no meaning, right? Data is just numbers, but we give it meaning. We give it prediction, we give it trends, we give it future outcomes. And so if you can tell a story around your data, if you're presenting a set of data in a presentation, the presentation is going to be even more powerful. And John had a question, what if your story doesn't fit with the culture you're speaking with? Then you may have to adjust. And one thing in the presentation is that you prepare to say the same thing a few different ways. And this is how you can make sure that you're reaching the audience, of course, building those feedback loops, but you probably have to rephrase and prepare a few versions of a story, a few versions of a phrase or a sentence, and continually rephrase. That's one technique to doing that, okay? And so now I'm gonna turn it over to Professor Bullock.
Sure. And John, for your question, so we'll be covering another technique here momentarily. So just be on the lookout for that after we go over Maslow's motivational theory, okay? But before we get into this, right, I want to give you this. Now, this is something, so communications is a psychological process, hands down. It doesn't matter if it's social, professional, whatever the case is, right? Whatever you are doing, even if you're writing and you're corresponding an email, or whether you are having a conversation, public speaking, whatever the case is. There are 4 communication, I'm going to change the color on this. There are 4 communication elements that you always need to be aware of, right? Hands down, you have to know number 1 is the audience. It doesn't matter what you are communicating. If you do not know who your audience is, not only will you be lost, your audience will be lost. And more than likely, that's not going to lead to an effective presentation, right? So audience is number 1. So really trying to identify perhaps even needs and wants of the audience, if it's possible beforehand. If not, then you have to anticipate, right? The next is understanding what the purpose is. So what's the purpose of the presentation? What do you want the audience to do? Do you want them to, are you simply just informing them of something? Are you simply trying to persuade them? Maybe it's a new product or maybe it's a new service, right? Or is it simply just to entertain? Because we all can watch TV, we all can listen to the radio and music and things like that. So purpose is important. So what is your presentation trying to convey? The next aspect, and I do this in all my classes and all my trainings, is in terms of the message, right? So in terms of, that's going to inform your message, right? And we do this a lot, like whether it's a training, Professor Sanchez and I get together and we really put our heads together to think, well, what's the purpose of this, right? So you have to be able to form a cohesive message, right? That's going to lead to a productive PowerPoint or presentation or public speaking moment. But above all, what is your value? What is your value, right? And I will tell you, if you do not have any value to the audience, it's going to be difficult to keep their attention. So what is the value? What are their needs? What are their wants? Again, if you don't know it from the very beginning, maybe you figure it out along the way, but there has to be some sort of value. Somebody is coming to the presentation because they need or they want something, right? And again, and you are there, you are in service to the audience, like Professor Sanchez said. Now, just to kind of open this up into, so this is a question we just want you to keep in mind as we walk through this. In what ways can a speaker hold the audience's attention? So just internalize that question as we go through this. These 5 levels, and this pyramid probably is going to look similar to what maybe you are envisioning right now, right? These 5 levels motivate your audience to learn from your presentation. So we're tailoring it to how this can be used in terms of presentations. Well, we have to start off with the foundational level, basic needs and basic interests, right? We have to get the audience's attention from the very beginning, right? And it's not only just in the beginning, but throughout. And we'll expand on that here in a moment. So how will you relate your topic to the audience? Now we have to think about patterns. So in our book, we talk a lot about patterns because communication is all about patterns. It does not matter what culture you are from. The idea is some patterns are more prominent than others. So for example, if I were to give you a problem, more than likely, you're going to be thinking, well, when is the solution coming, right? So there's a pattern there, problem solution. If I give you a cause of something, you might want to know the effect, right? So there's these pairs that tend to go together, comparing and contrasting. There's a few other patterns that we describe in the book, but the idea is we have to get the attention and curiosity from the very beginning. The next tier in terms of this is sharing these personal stories or creating this safe environment, so to speak. So just like Professor Sanchez said, you are in service to the audience. You are Mr. Miyagi, if anyone is a Karate Kid fan. You are Yoda from Star Wars. You are the fairy godmother, right? So you are there to help the audience do something, right? So you want to show the audience that you are in service to them and you want to guide them through this. And what you can do are just some simple techniques is show the global audience you understand and recognize their preference for information, because cross-culturally, information isn't conveyed the same way in every single culture, right? We have to think on how somebody's uptaking information, how they're processing that information. You want to include diverse cultural examples, cultural names as well. Our boardrooms, virtual rooms, and campfires are hardwired for stories today. It doesn't matter in what format we're doing this, right? So you're creating this environment, this safe environment. And this is going to lead into building this community, right? So you want to make the presentation engaging. You want to get involvement from the audience. So just like Professor Sanchez said, you want to build in these feedback loops. For example, like we've been doing, okay, type in the chat, or perhaps there's a poll, or perhaps there's some other capacity. We're in a virtual environment right now, so we have to think outside the box a little bit. Also, something else you might want to do is perhaps what's called chunking information, right? Because whenever we speak, we tend to talk in shorter sentences. Whenever we write, we tend to write longer sentences, right? But the idea is we want to get in the habit of presenting micro content is what it's called, right? So chunking information so it's easily digestible, okay? What will essentially happen is all of this together is trying to lead towards team building, engaging a culture in terms of comfort zones, okay? Going into this 4th element, almost to the top, okay? So this thankfulness stage, this gratitude stage. Well, what's involved with this? So between the community and gratitude, you really want to make it apparent that you are there to help the audience, right? So for example, sharing an idea with others is our greatest expression as a presenter. I'm going to say that again. Sharing an idea with others is the greatest expression as a presenter, right? So again, as long as you're giving back, right? The idea is that the audience is going to be there and they're going to want more. They're going to want to know more, right? So then the idea is we have to shift this mindset a little bit, because typically whenever we get on stage, we think about our talking points, or if we're on television or on the radio and we're trying to communicate a message, but it's not necessarily always that. We have to have an idea. We have to have a map in terms of where we're going. But this eventually leads to this call to action, this accomplishment stage at the very top. So the idea is you're trying to motivate, or you're trying to challenge your audience to take action in something. Is it to advocate for something? Is it to like something on my social media page? Is it to purchase a product? Is it to start a conversation around a different topic or a different theme that you think is important? Okay. So for example, if anyone's familiar with Tony Robbins, is anyone familiar with Tony Robbins? Okay. So Tony Robbins, he has these mega events. Lots of people go to them because he knows how to package information. More than likely, and this is something that Professor Sanchez and Rod, all of us have heard, that more than likely people can seek out information, but it's how you package it, which is what's interesting. That's what keeps people coming back. The idea is Tony Robbins packages information very well. He holds what's called fire walks, right? Where he has people walk over hot coals, right? Again, I'm sure there's some forms you have to sign and some things like that. But the idea is to motivate you and encourage you to conquer your fears. That's his approach, right? So that's one approach to it. But the idea is that it's engaging. It gets people thinking about, oh, well, can I do this? Am I doing this right? How do I do this? It's getting the audience to ask themselves these questions, therefore fostering this engagement. And Professor Sanchez, I think you had one other element to add to the top, right?
Sure. No, and this is great because Professor Bullock is applying Maslow's theory to presentations, which is a unique application. And one thing I want to add, so you can see Maslow's original theory was the basic needs that we have are food and shelter, and then it goes all the way up. But self-actualization is humanity's most advanced need. And so this is our most advanced need. And the thing is, again, you're not thinking about this as your own need. You're thinking about how can I help the audience self-actualize? How can I help them themselves or who they dream to be? And so this is the framework for presentations, and this governs the entire approach in order to reach that impact. So now we are going to go to cognitive science. One more time, neuroscience has given us the key for opening a presentation effectively. We want to ask you about another word, dopamine. Can anyone tell us what dopamine is? And then we'll connect this to building an effective presentation hook. And we have an activity here. So what is dopamine?
Isn't it a feel-good hormone that's released from your body depending on the situation and the environment?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, it's a feel-good hormone. It's released depending on certain situations. Exactly. And then I think pleasure, some people are typing in excitement, hints of motivation. So exactly, this is our pleasure chemical, right? That our brain releases, and it makes us feel happy. And our brain gives us this chemical reward when we're curious. So what's interesting about this was researched at University of California, Berkeley, is that stimulating curiosity increases the production of this natural high. But the pleasure we feel is not from receiving the reward, right, the information, but from being in a state of curiosity itself. So the pleasure we feel is just from actually being in this anticipatory stage of waiting for the information, we feel pleasure. So the idea is when you create a hook, it's not just at the beginning of the presentation, but you want to create hooks within each section so that you have the audience engaged throughout the entire presentation. Okay, so not just at the beginning, but if you can build a hook at the beginning of each section, your presentation is going to be even more impactful. And so we have the hooks here. So we want to go through them with you. And then we have an exercise to test your knowledge of this, something we do in our trainings. And the first hook here we have is an observation, right? An interesting observation. And I'll give you an example. American economists aren't sleeping well these days. Now, would this pique your curiosity? And if so, why? American economists aren't sleeping well these days. Hopefully you're worried.
Yeah, we want to know what's going on.
Right. You don't know what's going on. What is happening? Do I need to change my investments? Do I need to think about the market? What's going on? Okay. Now, notice I didn't give you all the information. Yes, Elizabeth, you want to know more, right? And it's, yeah, particularly your investments, I think you'd be concerned. So the way to create this hook effectively is to point out some type of irregularity, some type of warning or a discovery. So you're hinting at some compelling future outcome. That's how you create the observation hook. And Professor Bullock?
Sure. And moving on to the second one. Okay, so the second one here is, you guessed it, story and anecdote. We're hardwired for stories. What if I said something like this? What if I started my presentation like this? I said, this afternoon when I reached for my credit card to give to the clerk, I hesitated. Identity theft is one of the fastest growing crimes today. By simply putting that first sentence, right, I'm already creating an environment for us to relate. I'm increasing relatability. We're all thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe that time I used my credit card, right? Was there a time when I hesitated? Right. And then my main topic that I start to get into is identity theft, and it goes on from there. Okay. And the third one?
The third one is a question. So let me ask you a question. Can you imagine the world without a single tree? So this is compelling, right? Okay. Now, if I had started this presentation with forest degradation or urbanization or greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and climate change, you may not have been, as engaged. But if I say, can you imagine the world without a single tree? That creates story in your mind and is more impactful. And I'm going to tell you a quick story before we go on. I was delivering a training and I was sitting in the audience and one of the trainees was giving a presentation. And she asked us, can you think of the person that you miss the most? And close your eyes. So we did. And I was thinking of my mother at the time, and others are probably thinking of their grandmothers, their brothers, their fathers, their uncles. And then she said, okay, now I want you to open your eyes. And she started to play some music. And on the first slide, she had a road, and the road was diverging in two directions. And she said, today I'm going to talk to you about loss and how important it is to appreciate those that we have and we love while they're still with us on the planet. And we were just, oh my gosh, we were crying. We were feeling this presentation. I ran out and called my mother right afterwards. I said, Mommy, I love you. We were right there with her. And the beauty of the question hook is that the presenter doesn't have to elicit the answer, right? The presenter doesn't have to get answers from every audience member. You ask the question and the audience will connect themselves to your presentation in their mind. And that's why this hook is really powerful. And a technique for the question hook, you can ask a yes/no question or a show of hands question, or you can ask an open-ended question. And the idea is that you imply that the answer is later in your presentation. And Professor Bullock?
Okay, and the fourth one, and just another little anecdote. Many of us are familiar with TED Talks, right? So with TED Talks, more than likely, they're using one of these hooks or they're using a combination of these hooks. If you go back and you listen to how it starts something like this, right? The next one I'm going to get into is an amazing fact. And let me tell you, it has to be amazing. There's many facts out there, right? What if I said something like this? Lung cancer kills 170,000 in people in 1 year, more than all criminal and accidental deaths combined. Not only am I giving you a statistic, I'm comparing it to two other aspects, criminal and accidental deaths combined. We love facts. That's how we build the world around us, right? Now, the key word here is amazing. So what if I said this? What if I said, okay, you ready for it? What if I said, the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west? Huh? That's pretty amazing, huh? Well, yes, it's amazing, but it's been doing that for who knows how long, right? So we are desensitized to that information. We need to activate curiosity in some other manner, okay? So again, keyword is amazing, something that people maybe don't readily know or maybe aren't aware of, okay? And the last one, Professor Sanchez?
Sure, and the last one, I'll just touch on this quickly. So this is actually the least effective hook. We put it there for completion, but this is the least effective hook. And we put an example, a business that makes nothing but money is a poor business. But starting with a quote is seen as the least effective hook. Now, the reason for that is that when you start with someone else's words, the chances are that speaker was speaking in a very different context from your presentation. So you have to spend valuable time connecting that speaker's quote to your topic. And that wastes precious time at the most important juncture of the presentation, which is the beginning. So instead, we recommend starting with originality, your own words, and then you can have a quote to support those words. And that's more powerful than starting with someone else's words and having to contextualize. And again, dopamine, this whole technique is framed around increasing dopamine. And again, the reward is from the curiosity itself, not the reward, the information itself. So you want to build these hooks throughout. So now we're going to give you two examples. And Professor Bullock, do you want to kick us off here?
Sure. Okay. So just if you're not aware of it yet, and that's okay, right? Or maybe you are. What if I got up on stage and I said, engaging in environmental sustainability will help us to reduce the causes of global warming? I've heard many speeches like this. I'm sure you've heard the same thing, where they start off something like this, and it already sets the precedent, right? What if we compare that to this?
So what if we're to say, if global temperatures continue to rise, New York and Mumbai will be underwater by the year 2050. Hopefully that captivates you. It might concern you a bit, okay?
Yes. Have more impact.
More impactful?
Yeah.
And Joanna said more engaging. Yes, Elizabeth. Yeah, so this is more impactful. Now notice the reason we point this out is because I didn't use the words environmental sustainability. I didn't use the phrase global warming. So the hook is different than the main idea, right? The hook is simply the beginning of the story. You're captivating the audience and leading them to the main idea, okay? And this is what we wanted to illustrate here. And so now we're going to have an activity here. We want to test your knowledge. So we have the techniques at the top: observation, story, question, amazing fact. And we're going to give you some hooks. And these are from actual speeches that have been canonized as very effective in different fields. We want you to tell us which technique is being used. And in some cases, there are two answers, because if you combine two techniques, your presentation hook is going to be more effective. So let's test your knowledge. Type your answers in the chat. Okay.
Okay, so here we go. So did you know that the field of psychology is simply the brain trying to comprehend itself? I'm sorry. So what do you think it is? Interesting observation, story, and question, or amazing fact? Okay.
We have a question from Mary. And there's two techniques.
Let's say amazing fact too.
Yeah, amazing fact. Very good. Yeah, so that was Lisa. Yeah, amazing fact and question. Very good. Okay, so combining both techniques. Excellent. And the next one, imagine a big explosion as you climb through 3,000 feet. Imagine a plane full of smoke. Imagine an engine going clack, clack, clack. I know it sounds scary. Well, I had a unique seat that day. I was sitting in seat 1D. And this is from a TED Talk called 3 Things I Learned While My Plane Crashed by Rick Elias. So powerful, right? Powerful talk. He's a plane crash survivor. So which technique is this? Yep, John Edwards' story, Joanna's story. Very good. Everyone got it. Story, right? And notice I didn't tell the whole story. You just tell the beginning of the story, and then you go into your presentation.
And the next one we have here is, even if they've never been able to see it themselves, blind people smile when they're happy. Smiling is a basic human instinct. So what do you think it is?
This is one of our favorite, yes.
Amazing fact, observation.
Amazing fact.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it's a combination of both of those. Good. Okay.
Good. And the next one, so sadly, the next 18 minutes during this chat, 4 Americans that are alive will be dead from the food they eat. And this is from a talk about communication in terms of, child education about food. Teach every child about food. What would this be? Yeah, amazing fact. Very good. Amazing fact. And yeah, it creates urgency. Yeah, an observation, right? We should be worried about this. Yeah, very good. Excellent. Okay.
And last but not least, just one more to finish off this portion. 49% of social media users share product information, almost half, with the hopes of improving the lives of others. What do you think it is?
Fact. Good. Fact. Jill said false. Fact. Good.
Yeah,
this is a statistic that was researched, that's there, but we'll see how it holds later on, right?
We're a lot of people on social media now, right? So
very good. Okay, so you've got it, right? So now we want to go into another cognitive strategy, something called schemata. Okay. And we're happy to share. So at the end, we're going to give you our emails and we can send you some materials if you're interested in some information based on the presentation. So schemata, this is something that is a cognitive framework. This was coined by cognitive psychologist Jean Piaget, and essentially these are mental shortcuts for receiving information. So to illustrate this point, if I told you I bought a chair, so let's just say I told you I purchased a chair. Can you type in the chat very quickly what you pictured in your mind when I said I bought a chair? What was the color of the chair? What was the make of the chair? Describe it. So I told you I bought a chair, Raul Sanchez, right? What chair did you picture in your mind? Okay, so John Edwards, brown chair. There's a wood desk chair, a Victorian chair, wooden chair, metal chair. Okay, a lot of people are picturing me with a wooden chair. Interesting. With a cushion. Thanks, Mary. I have to be comfortable. Yes, a yellow comfortable chair. Excellent. Okay. A modern chair, a living room chair. Okay. Very good. A French chair, of course. Yes. So excellent. So what's interesting here, and this is the wonder of communication, is that the communication was successful because we all have a schemata for chair in our minds. We all have a blueprint for chair in our minds. So even without giving you any details, you understood what I was saying. However, as you can see in the chat, everyone's image of the chair was different. This is connected to our cultural experiences, our backgrounds. So the idea is, with presentations to international audiences, the goal is to present information through more than one sense. And this is how you activate schemata. you have the audience not just see the information, they hear it. If you can go through all the 5 senses in some way, even taste, you can evoke that through the words that you use, but you want to make sure to present the information through more than one sense, and this will help you reach a spectrum of audiences. So for example, even a word like entrepreneurship on the PowerPoint slide, perhaps a photograph of Jeff Bezos and Steve Ortega, Amancio Ortega, then you would have the audience able to connect their prior experiences to the information, access language, and then be primed for new information. And to illustrate this point, we want to illustrate the points that we are presenting here. We want to give you a special treat from my twin brother, Rod Sanchez, and we are going to share with you how we did this in our book very briefly. And Professor Bullock is going to pull up the information here.
Sure, I'm just going to stop share for a moment, okay?
Thank you, Professor Sanchez, for the very kind introduction. So in support of activating schemata, multisensory experiences, and storytelling, which Professor Sanchez and Professor Bullock have mentioned, we have an exciting new feature in the book that utilizes augmented reality, which we'll see in a moment. So we created this feature together as a team, and our intention with utilizing this emerging technology is to design a new immersive reading and learning experience. There we go. And in support of the rich content in the book. And so for readers to feel even more closely connected with the content in a multisensory way. So how does it work? The book holds a number of key skills and communication concepts that we're illustrating within each chapter. So we designed the illustrations to come to life on the page, where readers can interact with the animated content in a multisensory reading experience through your smartphone. So from a pedagogical perspective, we're utilizing this emerging technology to design what we call these short micro-learning moments to demonstrate key business communication concepts through animated visuals and sound to reveal additional tips in another layer of the physical book. So Professor Bullock, if you could please cue up the video, that'd be excellent so we can share how it all works. So what we're striving to ultimately do is to empower global audiences to learn and experience the content in a unique and meaningful way. And so what we're demoing here is an example in chapter 4, the power of nonverbal communication in the book. So we're utilizing motion to convey the significance of body movements as a pattern of communication. So the concept showcased here is the 3 zones of professional communication, specifically the personal zone in this case. So we're activating this zone to illustrate one-on-one interactions in motion. And we're sharing these visual statistics regarding these close interactions, and then also a tip on enhancing global relationships. So in terms of animation, since augmented reality or AR is time-based, we're utilizing this as a vehicle for storytelling, as Professor Sanchez and Professor Bullock mentioned, to communicate to a global audience. So the great thing about this is that this medium can be used to uncover, you can utilize this medium anywhere in the world, whether you're on the train, at a coffee shop, or at home, or even if you're wearing a mask, you can enjoy this experience, which hopefully won't be wearing in the forthcoming future. So, okay, how does this work? So the 3-step process to activate the augmented reality experience in the book is through your smartphone. So the technology to view the augmented reality experience is an app called Artivive. So that's in step 1, as Professor Bullock has highlighted here. You can download the free app through the Apple Store or Google Play. And step 2, the experience begins in finding the 7 illustrations in the book. So starting with the book cover is active, and it's active right now, so you can experience that. And then 1 illustration from each of the 6 chapters. Step 3, readers can experience the augmented reality concepts by hovering your iOS device through your smartphone or your iPad over the artwork. So currently we have 4 augmented reality illustrations activated and are unlocking the remaining 3 in the coming weeks. So please feel free to check back at globallycommunicated.com to find out which page numbers are active. So we're excited to share this feature with you. So hopefully it's a helpful tool toward meaning and understanding. So Professor Sanchez, Professor Bullock.
Sure, and this is very cool, right? I don't know if you've seen this before. We haven't seen this before. You point your smartphone at the book, the illustrations come to life, give you some hidden tips on body language, presentation techniques. We encourage you to try it out, and it works digitally. So if you want to test it even before you buy the book, you can download the free app and hold it up to the cover on Amazon, and it'll come to life. And so we have 2 slides, and then we are going to get to our giveaway here and give our prizes. So stay tuned for that. So Professor Bullock is pulling it up. And I do want to mention my father as well here. So he is a very intellectual and deep man and a wonderful father. And he put a poster of Neil Armstrong on our ceiling when we were little. And it was Neil Armstrong taking a step on the moon. And we would look at that as we would go to sleep at night. And I think it profoundly shaped our thinking and our imagination. And there's another photo that also has that effect. And this photograph is called Earthrise. This is one of the most influential photographs ever taken. This was taken by William Anders in the Apollo 8 mission. And he said about this moment of turning back to look at the Earth, we set out to explore the moon, but instead we discovered the Earth. And it was the first time that we'd seen the fragility, the loneliness, right, and the beauty of our world. And this image went as close to viral as an image could at the time. It was flooded by international media across the planet. It's credited with starting the environmental movement. That's how powerful it was. But the idea is it brought to mind on Earth this singular system that we're all a part of. We're all connected, and this idea again of a global mindset. And so we want to share that with you because we're going to share with you patterns of communication and then also some techniques for navigating those. And there's 3 larger ones across the globe. And this research comes from linguist Richard Lewis and intercultural researcher Edward T. Hall. We've applied it to presentations in our book, and we're going to share some quick tips here for how to do that. Professor Bullock?
Okay, so the first one, again, we elaborate on it more in the book, but just to give you a taste, there's something called the linear expressive style pattern. What this consists of is these are cultures that tend to be more task-oriented, more direct, right? And favor more logical orientations towards things, right? And just a quick statistic, throwing in a statistic, is about 30% of the world's cultures operate in this fashion, right? So think about it, 30%, okay? The US being one of them, all right? The goal of the presentation is information, right? So this is the purpose, right? So the purpose is to share information. Presentation tip that we want to give you is to correlate words and actions, right? To correlate those. Focus on the facts. Facts are going to be important in terms of this cultural style pattern. Provide logical solutions. The sequence on how pieces fit together is going to be very important. And just for a little visual on the right-hand side of Professor Sanchez.
Sure, and as Professor Bullock mentioned, 30% of the world, usually in most English-speaking parts of the world, prefer this style. This would be United States, parts of Northwestern, North Central Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Scandinavia, okay? And the next style pattern here is the multi-expressive style pattern. In the short time you spent with me, you probably can tell that this is my style pattern. And the goal of this style pattern, it tends to be people-oriented, expressive. The goal of communication and presentations is personal connection and opinion. And the way to integrate this style, into your presentation style, is to cultivate empathy, think about feelings, and providing inspirational and creative solutions. And Professor Bullock?
Sure. And then about 70% of the world's cultures tend to operate in this fashion. And just a quick disclaimer for here. So these patterns do not necessarily say that everyone from one culture is going to function in this way. That's not what we're saying here. The idea is that these patterns have become cultural conventions over time. So there's an evolution that's happening. We live in a globalized world, but 70% of the world's cultures tend to operate in this fashion. So this will be the majority of Latin America, MENA, which is the Middle East, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, parts of Central Asia, just to give you a breadth and taste of this, okay? And last but not least, we have this last style, okay? And this last style is the amicable expressive style pattern. What this consists of is being indirect but respect-oriented. Respect and trust are 2 key aspects that are communicated differently across cultures. So we have to be mindful of that. Presentation goal is harmony, right? So we're giving you a goal for each. The presentation tip is to preserve respect and social harmony. So provide what's called a gradualist solution, not giving all the information at once, but slowly kind of revealing information in such a manner. And Professor Sanchez?
Sure, and this style is preferred by most Asian countries except the subcontinent of India, which is both multi-expressive and amicable expressive. So now again, we want to share with you, the goal is not to go to one particular country and think of one set of strategies. For example, I'm going to China, so I'm going to use the amicable expressive style pattern only. We're in a globalized era. We encounter mixed audiences everywhere we go. So the idea is you want to integrate all of these style patterns into one international presentation style. And an easy way to do that In the book, we elaborate upon a little bit more, but we're going to give you a snapshot here, is to go back to Aristotle, who's a very famous Greek philosopher, as I'm sure you know. He was a famous rhetorician, and he coined these three rhetorical appeals: logos, appeal to logic; pathos, appeal to emotion; and ethos, appeal to credibility. So the idea is that if you apply this, you can see it connects neatly with these global presentation style patterns. So for example, if every presentation you give, you have elements of logos, statistics, facts, and research. Also elements of pathos, emotionally impactful stories. Ethos, you also include relevant information about your credibility, your track record. If you have information from all of these three appeals in one presentation, you're guaranteed to reach a spectrum of audiences. And this approach also accommodates individual diversity and occupational diversity. For example, accountants might be linear expressive. You may have publicists that are multi-expressive, and then also doctors may be amicable expressive. So the idea is you want to, with this approach, you're thinking about accommodating individual and cultural diversity as well. Okay, so now we have one last point before we get to the special things at the end. And this is more linguistic strategy. Professor Bullock?
From a linguistic standpoint, we have to be mindful that communication is done by using what's called global English, right? Now, some of us may be familiar with this, some maybe not as familiar, and that's fine. It refers to English usage that is professional, that a professional speaker or writer is optimized for a global audience. But the main point that we want you to know is this is the International Business Communication Standard, primarily, right? So we have to think, well, what is global English? It's clear and concise usage of language, so English, that does not assume native fluencies of others. But it's better to think of it contrary to what it is, so non-global English. And Professor Sanchez?
Sure, and global English is optimized for a global audience. And so sometimes non-global English helps us to think of how we can arrive there. And one way is idioms. You know, idioms are those phrases or groups of words that have separate meaning than the individual parts. For example, cut and dry, off the top of my head. These are not always easily translatable globally. Also, cultural references. Americans love references to baseball. Let's level the playing field. But let's bring our A game. This is coming out of left field. If you use a cultural reference, you want to make sure that it's culturally universal. Initialisms and acronyms. These are basically abbreviations. Initialisms are where you pronounce a separate letter, like FBI. Acronyms where you pronounce a word, like NATO. You want to make sure that you avoid these and spell them out clearly for international audiences. Businessisms are very similar idioms. Let's put out some feelers. This has lots of moving parts. You want to make sure to avoid those and have more literal references. And phrasal verbs. These are verbs that are comprised of 2 or 3 words, something like draw up or get ahead or zero in on. These are also not as easily translatable. And so instead we recommend using single words. Instead of draw up the contract, write the contract, draft the contract. This is something we communicate in our trainings. And sarcasm is the last point. If you say beautiful day, isn't it? And it's raining outside, or you say this is just what we need, and in fact it's the opposite, this can be quite challenging. And instead we recommend using the language of empathy, pronouns such as us and we, building common goals and a common vision. And so we want to close here with a very special treat. This is a painting that my twin brother created, the award-winning illustrator of the book. It's a very special painting that encapsulates the vision of the work, the presentation today, as well as our work in the book and in our paths here vocationally. And I'm going to turn it over to Rod Sanchez.
Thank you, Professor Sanchez, Professor Bullock, for asking me to share this piece. It's an honor to share this painting with all of you here. This painting was inspired by conversations between the 3 of us with regard to our world. So the painting is titled One Vision, as Raul mentioned, and it's 36 by 24 inches on canvas, spray paint and acrylic paint. The painting celebrates global unity among nations. All of us are unique human beings, yet we all share vital commonalities. We all share our universal heartbeat. We all share the air we breathe. We all share the capacity to love or be loved. And so this painting depicts our interconnectedness in the belief that together we can sculpt a better world. And with our uniqueness, we can find understanding. So one of the questions thought about while creating this piece is, can we visualize a world with no boundaries in order to find understanding, trust, or imagination? And our human connection, I believe, is the nexus of healing change for our world. And from the joining of hands in one shared human perspective to the tears of dolphins sustained by hope flowing from the tear duct of our visionary ocean. So from these 2 points, we can translate vision into action. So painting for me is like playing with the instruments of colors to allow for a symphony of emotion to emerge. So in support of what Professor Sanchez and Professor Bullock have mentioned, as presenters, I feel like we're like conductors of an orchestra. So in imagining this for a moment, we're like, as presenters, we're like conductors of an orchestra. So we're guiding teams of musicians by believing in a vision. So when we believe in a shared vision with the integrity of our actions, the honesty of our movements, and the unspoken understanding of human connection, we're able to synchronize the tempo of our universal heartbeat. So it's together that we can create a rising crescendo towards a shared vision of a beautiful universal harmony. So as human beings, I believe we're given the gift of being able to see each other from within and create connections in between. So thank you very much, Professor Sanchez, Professor Bullock, for allowing me to share this piece.
Sure, we are very excited to have, so the artist is here to share this piece with you. It's there on the wall here in our apartment, and it's a very powerful prism for us as we were creating the work. We kept going back to this painting and this vision in our minds, a shared human perspective. And so you have a chance to have a print of this piece signed by the artist himself and all of us. And so this is something that we are doing. If you purchase the book, we are happy to send you this print, this art print, and also signed book plates. And so I will put the link to the book here in the chat. Of course, we're going to give away 3 copies right now. And so, but we want to share this link with you here. If you purchase the book, send us an email, or Caitlin an email, Caitlin Heath, and we will be happy to share with you a print, the art print there, and also a special signed personalized book plate. So the giveaways are here. Are you ready? I hope that you're ready for this. Okay, so free copies of the book. Here we go. We have 3 to give away. So we mentioned a lot of famous people, and then we have a resume LinkedIn critique giveaway as well, which is coming up in a second. So we mentioned a lot of famous people during this presentation. So I'm going to ask Rod Sanchez and Professor Bullock, I'm going to ask you both to be on because they're really good with this. Okay, so here we go. Please, in the chat, type 2 of the famous people we talked about today, 2 names. And the first 3 that type it in the chat will get the free books. 2 names, and they have to be, so you have to choose both. We mentioned a lot of notables today.
Mariela La Rosa. We have Obama and Tony Robbins.
Okay.
First winner.
And then we have Joanna, so Obama and Gandhi, and we have Wendy, Yoda, and Ford. All right.
Okay, good. Yoda's a famous person. We'll give you that one, Wendy. Okay, perfect. So the 3 of you, please let us know. We'll with Caitlin, we'll coordinate to send you a free copy of the book. So congratulations, and everybody else, congratulations on your engagement too as well. So there's another chance to win here. So we are also career center advisors. We work a lot with professional development and workforce development. So we're giving a chance for a free LinkedIn critique or resume critique to 3 winners. Okay, and this one you have a little bit of time for. If you upload a photo to social media with the hashtag Connecting Globally and the hashtag FACC-NY, the photo can be of yourself. It can be of the screen, the computer screen. It can be of your notebook paper, anything that represents the workshop. If you put these 2 hashtags there, you have till 5 p.m. Eastern Standard or 11 p.m. As well. And we will look at them and we will select 3 winners, and you will receive either a resume critique or a LinkedIn critique. And we often meet with you over Zoom to talk about it. So this is a free prize offering that we want to mention to you, and you will select which one you want. If you have a cover letter you'd like us to look at, a LinkedIn a profile or resume, just let us know. And we are happy to meet with you and do that type of advisement and help. So this is another giveaway here, and you have a few hours to do this, so you have plenty of time. And we're very excited to be here today. So we want to again thank the organizers. I'm going to put some links in the chat. We have a culture quiz you can take on our website, which is free, that will help you see what presentation style you are, and then how you can integrate the other approaches to arrive at an international presentation style. So I put the link there. I will also put in our social media links too. If you want to connect with us, we're very approachable, and we're here as a resource as much as we can. We've been doing this virtual book tour for about 2 months and going to companies and universities and organizations around the world. So we're very happy to connect with you. And lastly, I'll put the link to our book there as well. And like I said before, if you do order the book, just let us know. We're happy to share with you the signed art print and book plates. And yeah, it was very enjoyable. We enjoyed communicating with all of you and seeing all of you from all different parts of the world, not just New York and New Jersey, but everywhere. And so thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, we'll stay here for a minute, or any comments. And thank you, Zaya. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, all of you.
Yeah, and if you have any other questions in general, you can feel free to email us or link up with us on LinkedIn as well. We'll be offering more kind of sessions and things like that in the future. So feel free to keep in touch, be on the lookout. Yeah, just let us know if you have questions, and maybe we'll be setting up a one-on-one for the resume critique and LinkedIn critique as well. So congrats to the winners as well. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you to our presenters, Dan, Raul, and Rod. We really appreciate you being here with us. And lastly, if you didn't get a copy of your book, I wanted to also mention that it covers, in addition to presentations, relationship building, negotiating, effective cross-cultural emailing, and more. So there's lots of great content in here, in addition to all of the neat interactive elements. So we encourage you to pick up a copy and take your learning even further. And then to all of our attendees, if you're interested in learning more about the Chamber or the FACC network, you can reach out to us at membership@facc-nyc.org, and we hope to welcome you all back soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa.